Sprinter Sacre is the champion again!
And it's going to be 10 out of 10 over fences for ALTIOR.
Constitution Hill, simply breathtaking.
Well, welcome to the Cotswolds. Welcome to Nico de Boinville's home. Many thanks for inviting us here this morning, Nico. We're here specifically to talk about Nico's 50 Grade 1 winners. 50 Grade 1 winners in less than 10 years, or around about a decade. When you started out, did you think you'd be at this level?
Definitely not. I think I would have been very happy with one, let alone 50. So, no, I feel very fortunate, and I've ridden some fantastic horses along the way, and ultimately it's down to them.
You have ridden some fantastic horses, and we're going to hopefully speak about those. I think 17 horses that provided you with your 50 Grade 1 winners. Let's talk about the very first Grade 1 winner. It was your 64th winner, that was all, your first Grade 1 winner, 400 odd rides I think, and it was Coneygree in the Courto Star at Kempton on Boxing Day. A novice, had little experience, I think that was just his third chase run at the time. What do you remember about that day?
A very special day. I was still a conditional, and Coneygree was just, he'd had one run over fences before that, and he was a very straightforward horse to ride. You know, he had a massive engine, and he had huge sort of back hind legs, and yeah, the Bradstocks just liked me to keep it very simple, and it was as straightforward as it could have been.
And how did you get the ride on that horse? Because obviously you were claiming 3 at the time, I think, were you, as conditional?
Yeah, well, I've been riding for the Bradstocks the sort of year before on Carruthers and various other horses, and we'd had a bit of success together, and yeah, we just kept the ball rolling, and the syndicate very kindly, Coneygree was coming off the back of an injury as well, so he'd been off for a season, so it just sort of evolved that way.
And he was your first Grade 1 winner, but I think most people will remember him for winning the Gold Cup in 2015, the Cheltenham Gold Cup, the first novice to do so since 1974, Captain Christie. You were on board. You made, well, when getting over the first, you made every single yard in a really fast run race. As a, you know, you couldn't claim in the race, but you were taking on those people that have been racing for a long time. Tony McCoy's last ever Cheltenham Gold Cup, so plenty of people that have been there a long time. And this young whippersnapper decides to take him along at a hectic pace, a great big field, horses coming left and right at you, but you got the tactics absolutely spot on. It was an amazing day to be there.
It was, again, it was very, very special, and I'd say that was definitely the sort of jump start my career needed to get where it was going. It was a miserable day. I remember that it had a load of rain and the ground was really testing. But again, the Bradstocks just told me to keep it very simple. We knew what the story was, and we knew just to try and, he had a very high cruising speed, and to just use his jumping, use that high cruising speed, and just try and draw the rest of them out of it. And I think that's what he did. I mean, I remember going down the hill the first time, and he really latched onto the bridle, and I thought, oh God, if he does this second time, then we're in with a really good shout. And he did it again coming down, and he was so quick and agile at his fences, and then it was just a case of staying on, and I couldn't quite believe it at the time. I mean, it's, you know, when you're 25 years old and just out of your claim, it's, yeah, stuff dreams are made of.
And the way he ran the race, I remember that the horse that tried to take you on was on his own, but you were really out on your own. You were the only one. Nothing was going to come past you. Jack Adam tried to late on, but you won that. Drifted slightly towards the right in the closing stages. Were you a bit concerned about that, or not really? There's still plenty of...
Slightly. I mean, the camber of the track actually lends to itself that way. The ground just does slightly run away from you that way. But no, I didn't. It didn't mind so much. But no, it was... Yeah, it was just... Everything went right. And I remember I rode in the Albert Bartlett... What was the Albert Bartlett? The 3-mile novice hurdle before, and I pulled up at the top of the hill with Dickie Johnson, and he knew, he had rode Coneygree the time before because I was banned, and he just said to me, Nico, be very, very careful because this is going to take a good bit of getting. So it was a fine line. You couldn't go all out and be completely aggressive, but you did have to save a bit as well.
So Coneygree made every single yard of the running and was your first Cheltenham Festival Grade 1 winner. Recently, we've seen your 50th Grade 1 winner at Cheltenham, came on Jango Baie, who won it in a completely different style. Having made every single yard of the running on Coneygree in 2015, a decade later, you were out with the washing on Jango Baie over a shorter trip, albeit. But I was watching it from the stands, and I thought that you were going to pull him up at any stage. We all know that Nicky and yourself have talked about him being a 2.5 mile, maybe 3 in future as well. The Arkle's over 2 miles, and he seemed to be just being out of his comfort zone. And I must admit, I thought, well, you're going to pull him up and think about Aintree, but that never crossed your mind.
No, I guess I was always just keeping tabs on the back of them, and so there was no sort of reason to really pull up because I knew that he'd finished strongly. And although he was out of his comfort zone in the pace that they were going, Majborough was going a heck of a clip early doors, and I was just trying to keep tabs on them and trying to pick up the pieces, as it were, rather than think about the win, trying to go for maybe 4th or 3rd and see what you could happen. And then they've started to stop going up the hill, and the hill has really sort of saved me because it's meant that I could finish really well and finish with the flourish. I have to say, I thought I was going to be having my 50th grade 1 on Jango Baie at Sandown in the Scilly Isles, and we've just come up short, so I thought it was very fitting that he did that for me at Cheltenham.
Jango Baie is storming home as well, up towards the line in March for the inside only by night. Jango Baie has come through to snatch it.
And let's talk about some other Grade 1 winners. We can't really leave this house because there are so many pictures of ALTIOR without talking about ALTIOR. I think he's won most Grade 1s for you now. He's 9, I think it was when I looked. And he's done it over hurdles and fences as a novice and a senior. And I would say he cemented your relationship with Grade 1 success over the years. I also remember him in his first hurdle run, because it was at Chepstow. Did you think he was going to be as good as he was when he won that novice hurdle at Chepstow? I mean, he won by a long way.
Yeah. We always knew he was good. I mean, just the other day we were in the weighing room and I was with Brian Hughes talking about his bumper winner at Market Raisin. And Brian actually rode the second horse for Malcolm Jefferson. And I think he got an absolute rollicking for the ride. I don't think Malcolm could quite believe that a horse could have done that to his horse. And obviously blamed the jockey. But no, ALTIOR was very, very special. I mean, the fact that he just kept coming back, and I think it was 19 consecutive wins over obstacles that he won, and that sets a record, and I don't think that will be broken for quite a while.
And while we're talking about ALTIOR and that success, it's probably a fine time to talk about the pressure you have when you're riding these horses in Grade 1s. I was amazed to see that of your 50 Grade 1s, 30 odd were favourite or second favourite. So you've got a lot of pressure on you when you're riding these horses. Does pressure drive you? Is pressure a privilege, or do you get worried about it?
Well, I guess you want that pressure, don't you? It's pressure and expectation, I suppose. And ultimately, I'm there just to do my job. And if I do my job well, then these horses will, they're of the quality that they can go and do the job properly and do it well. And yeah, I guess it's a privilege to be in that position, and you'd rather be on these horses than stuck in the weighing room. And if you want to be in the weighing room instead of on these horses, you're definitely in the wrong job. And
is there an occasion with ALTIOR that you kind of, that was the height of the pressure? Because there were so many pressure rides, I thought, many of them at Cheltenham, and I remember seeing you. You've always got your game face on when you're at Cheltenham, but was there any particular race with ALTIOR that you thought that he ended up winning that you thought he might not win?
No, I guess the one race where maybe I felt it slightly was in the Arkle, when there wasn't an awful lot of opposition. I think he was 7-1 on as well. And I sort of felt that there was no other result that, it had to happen that day, I think. And that was probably the only time where I've sort of felt it a bit. But no, he was a phenomenal racehorse, and I'll never forget that Supreme he ran in. And as I always say, if you go back through the form of that race, the amount of amazing horses that have come through, it's just been incredible.
Amazing horses you mentioned, and another amazing horse you've ridden to success in Grade 1s is Sprinter Sacre, who I know you did a lot of work on when you first got to Nicky's, and when you won the Queen Mother on him in 2016, He'd just come back, hadn't he? The race before was a Schlur, I think, and he won that, and that meant he was back. So there must have been a bit of pressure then when you're running, because he's won it. They say they never come back, the famous commentary from Mark Johnson, and he came back, and you gave him such a great big hug after the finishing line. You must have absolutely adored the horse.
That's the one horse where and people talk about jockeys and their feelings around horses, and like ultimately I don't believe that jockeys can have too much of an emotional connection with a horse, because I don't think you'd ask them for that maximum unless if you did have. But Sprinter was the one horse where I really sort of had a lot of strong feelings for the horse, and I was very sort of emotional around the horse because he meant so much to me, because we'd started together, as it were. He came as a 3-year-old and I was just a naive green, just turned 20-year-old, and I rode him every single day, rain, snow or sun, whatever. I was there for him, so to have that year with him after coming back, and Barry had moved on to take the JP job, it was an incredibly special year. And Carolyn Mould was, his owner was very supportive as well, and let the boss put me up, and yeah, it was an incredible season to have with the horse.
Sprinter Sacre is over the final fence and clear. Underso is in second, back in third Special Tiara, followed then by God's Own. But it is Sprinter Sacre. They say they never come back. This is one of the great comebacks in the history of the Cheltenham Festival, as Sprinter Sacre is the champion again.
And we're going to talk about another horse now you've got a great relationship with, Shishkin, who I think you rode the day after his owner had won the Gold Cup in a bumper at Kempton, and he won really well. You were looking forward to taking him over hurdles, and I bet you when you ran him over hurdles, you were really looking forward to him over fences. What a horse he proved to be. I mean, sensational jumper and one of the top Grade 1 winners of your career.
He was a phenomenal horse. He was definitely had his own mind. He thought about things a bit differently to any other horse, and you really had to work with him rather than against him. He won that bumper at Kempton the day after the Gold Cup very, very easily, and I was really looking forward to the next year. And I actually put him on the deck at the first hurdle down the back at Newbury the first time. And all the Donnellys, his owners, were there, and Joe Donnelly is an absolute gentleman, and Mari's incredibly kind, and they said, "Oh, don't worry, there'll be other days. You're okay, the horse is okay. We'll come back again." And the next time he ran, and he was phenomenal. And then he went to win the Sydney Banks, and then he won the Supreme, and then he carried on. It was an interesting race, the Supreme.
I was just going to say, the Supreme was a race where you nearly got knocked out of it, and no one would have backed you running if they did, because you were I think 7th at the second last or something ridiculous.
Yeah, and we got taken out at the second last. I think it was Donnelly's other horse that fell.
Asterion Phalange?
Asterion Phalange, yeah. He fell and knocked me back out into the helicopter park. And then I had to go all the way around, and Abacadabras, I think, was just in front with Davy Russell, and I didn't know if we were going to catch him, but luckily Shishkin, he never knew when to say no, and he's fought all the way to the line and just collared him.
Who was the toughest Grade 1 winner that you've ridden? Is it difficult to say? Do they all have that kind of ability, or is there one or two that kind of have it more? Shishkin never looked like he was ever going to give up.
Yeah, I mean, all the horses that have won Grade 1s have got that real sort of want to do it, and that fight, and not knowing when to lie down. I'd say Might Bite was the strangest one I've ever ridden, and that was just absolutely bizarre, and I don't know how the horse managed to get back up. But yeah, ultimately you're just the rider, and all you can do is, help. But ultimately it's the horse that has to use their ability to get there. Well,
talking about Might Bite, that's an interesting horse to talk about, because he obviously did have his own mind.
Yeah.
But on that particular day, his mind was set on winning. Jumping that, you were going so easily 1 minute, and then the second minute you were going off to the Guinness tent, as Nicky likes to say. Then you had to straighten him up. But he showed resolution. He quickened up again, or just stayed on?
No. I mean, I honestly had the easiest couple of laps round, and he was jumping so well, and he was doing everything so easy, and I had so much left in the tank. and he has literally jumped the last fence, seen where the paddock, the entrance to the paddock was, or where you come out onto the track, and just pulled up. And that was it. He was going out there. And then I'm like, no, no, no. And then he saw Whisper coming, and then he realised that he had to get going again, and he's literally gone from trot to flat-out gallop and collared Whisper on the line. I could not believe it. It was the strangest thing I've ever ridden and will ever ride, I'd say.
And when he won the King George, you were under instruction not to kind of resort to anything unless you had to, because of the way that he ran.
Yeah, he didn't particularly like the stick, and I think he taught me a lot that, you know, horses don't necessarily need the stick so much. I mean, it's important to sort of get them going, but I often find in the last strides of a race, you know, a horse, if you put the whip down, they'll actually try and have that extra bit. So he was one who you were very mindful. You tried not to pick it up. Well, I never did after that. I never picked it up before the last. And he was one, and even in the Gold Cup when he came second to Native River, I knew that as soon as I had to go for the whip, then that was it. We were done. We hit the ground coming up the hill, and it was just horrible. And that was it. We knew our race was done. You had to admit defeat.
Might Bite, like 10 other of your Grade 1 winners, have been multiple Grade 1 winners, but there have been a few that have just won one. Jango Baie's in progress, so hopefully he'll be adding to it. But some of the others that have just won one, the one that stands out for me was Verdana Bleu at Kempton, when you got up in the closing stages to beat another one of Nicky's, the 1-4 favourite, I think, Bouvert Dare.
Yeah.
And we sponsored the race, and you came into the parade ring. I've never seen someone look so glum winning a Grade 1. It was like almost as if, what have I done? But it was an incredible performance to get to follow the horse, and you knew that you had one run, didn't you? And that's your only chance of winning.
It was an interesting race. I don't know how I really felt after. I mean, ultimately, I don't think anyone really believed that Verdana Bleu, particularly from what we knew at home, was ever going to beat Bouverdare. And I was very mindful of the fact that I'd just chinned Bouverdare. And I was just, I didn't want to celebrate in front of anyone's faces because I thought that would be way too cheeky. I'd even try not to do that now. I didn't know if I was going to get a telling off or what. But I had warned Nicky. I was riding out the morning, and he said, "What are you going to do on Verdana Bleu?" And I said, "I'm just going to track for Bouverdare and have one crack." And he just looked at me and laughed and said, "I don't think you're going to be doing that." And I said, "Okay." And so I did tell him what I was going to do, but I don't think I ever really realised that it was going to materialise. But she was an incredible mare, and it was one of those that was probably a bit cheeky, but it was fantastic for her owners.
And you obviously, repaid the favour, as it were, with the JP McManus Silks, because you won future Grade 1s on two other horses that wore the famous colours of JP McManus. Epatante won at a 4-year Grade 1, and also JONBON has been so successful for you. Your relationship since the retirement of Aidan Coleman with JONBON has been fantastic to watch. You really do believe in the horse, and I think the way he jumps for you is one of the reasons why he's won so many Grade 1s. It's another horse you get on particularly well with, I would say. Yeah,
I enjoy riding JONBON. Aidan certainly set the foundations for him, over hurdles and through his novice years. And, it's very important to bring these horses along gradually and let them learn. So those novice years are very important. And I take nothing away from what Aidan's done with the horse. And I've been fortunate to come in for the ride. And I think we seem to have clicked. I mean, we didn't click so well in the Champion Chase this year, but he's a horse who takes a bit of knowing, and but he's got an incredible engine to him, and he will try and he'll get you out of trouble when you need to, really.
Well, hopefully there's more future Grade 1 still be won with JONBON. But just going back to the Queen Mother this year, he was another horse that made a mistake. That was the reason why he was so far out. But he was another horse that I thought you might be pulling up. And he ran a spectacular... I mean, how he finished second, I've got no idea.
Yeah, I've obviously gone over that mistake. And, I mean, ultimately, I wasn't travelling well enough to be asking for that stride, I'd say. But, if he was going, then that stride would have been nothing and he would have just pinged away. But, I nearly fell off there as well. So it was just another case of just trying to ease him back in without giving him too hard a race. And I certainly wasn't going to be picking up the whip on him. And, you know, it's just a case of nudging him out and see where he did. And luckily he managed to come second. But I hope going into Aintree he's in really good order, and he should, I'm hoping for a good run.
Well, he seems to like Aintree, so that's
Yeah.
a positive. Talking about a horse that doesn't see the stride, or you may not see the stride, everyone talked about Constitution Hill and the Unibet hurdle. And then obviously in the Unibet Champion hurdle, a bit unfortunate with the hurdle coming back into your vision. But he's a horse. Let's look at the positives with Constitution Hill. I can't believe we've been talking for 10, 15 minutes, not mentioned him. You've ridden so many great horses, but Constitution Hill's arguably on form the best that you've ridden, and won plenty of good races. Still, hopefully, more to come. But he must give you such a feeling when you're riding him. Everyone tells me, Nicky and yourself, that he's just so fast in his race. You can put him anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, he's an incredibly talented horse, and we've had a minor blip, I'd say. Some would say a major blip. I think it's a minor blip. It's a fall. We've done a lot of work to get him back, and I hopefully will see the profits of that at Aintree. But he's so talented. Like you can put him wherever you want him, and it's all there. I think the blip is he's just got a bit complacent, and he needed reminding that he has to operate.
Is it because he finds it so easy, do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think everything is just so easy for him in his work at home, in his schooling, that he has just found it easier. And we've also got a change in that we now have these foam rubber hurdles, and they don't hurt as much if you do leave a leg. And I just don't think that has been particularly beneficial. I don't think it's beneficial to any sort of really decent horse. I think these foam hurdles, you know, they help the sort of average to moderate horses, but the really decent horses, I just think it leads to complacency.
They disrespect them in any way, do they?
Yeah, they just don't respect them enough. Yeah.
Constitution Hill's won you 8 of Grade 1s of your 50, I think. I'm going to talk about another who may have been the biggest surprise for a Grade 1 victory, Pentland Hills. He's certainly the biggest price winner that you've ridden in a Grade 1 success. 20-1, I think he was, when he won the Triumph Hurdle. That was some day. You had plenty of owners that were singing your praises that day, owned by a big syndicate.
Yeah, well, he went to Plumpton in February, and he won very, very easily. And I said to the governor after, I really, really do think we need to be having a shot at the Triumph. And so he did, and I was telling everyone to back him because I really believed in him. I think loads of people around here were on him at 33-1 or whatever. And he's actually missed the first hurdle, and that set me back. And again, I nearly fell off, and I was at the back, and I was actually, David Mullins was next to me, and we were just talking to each other, and I said, "I'm still here, David, I'm still here." He said, "Oh, well done." And anyway, he came through and ran to the line, and that was an incredibly, that was a special Friday. That was my third winner of the week, and that made me leading jockey at Cheltenham that week. So it was very well spread out that year, I think. Yeah. And
you've, apart from last year, I think you've won a race at Cheltenham every year since 2015, haven't you? So
2014.
2014. Yeah, Whisper. Sorry.
Yeah.
Pentland Hills then followed up, I think, in a Grade 1 at Liverpool. Do you think he should have won more Grade 1s? Because he ended up not really making it as
No. He didn't progress from that year. And the horse I rode, I don't know what the reason was, but it just felt like he didn't train on from that, and he wasn't producing the same level of form. No matter what I did, it was almost like he just came up short slightly. But yeah, he was very, very talented on his day. But again, he was one who slightly disappointed me after his juvenile year.
Well, let's talk about a horse that, or is there a horse that may have disappointed you full stop, not winning a Grade 1? Because you've ridden so many good horses. There must be one or two that you think they got away and didn't give you a Grade 1 success. Any horses come to mind?
I think the one that stands out for me was Angel's Breath. I thought when he won that chase at Ascot that day, I thought he was the day that he actually got injured. I thought he was bound to be winning an RSA. So yeah, I've never been so depressed on a winner's podium after hearing that Angel's Breath had sort of sliced through his tendons, and it was absolutely gutting because that was a phenomenal horse, and it would have been great for Di Walters as well, and Ronnie as well, Ronnie Bartlett.
He came back though, didn't he? He's actually come back since. And
he has,
but not the same horse.
How he's managed to come back, I don't know, because we thought that he would never stand training.
And let's talk about maybe one of the horses that many people forget about in your Grade 1 success, because it was completed in America. The only Grand National that Nicky Henderson has won, although it's not really a staying contest over fences, but Brain Power winning in America, the American Grand National. That, again, must have been... People I know go there, they say it's a fantastic occasion. It's a very tight course, isn't it? Everyone can see everything going on. It must have been good fun.
It's an incredible spot to go, and I advise anyone who can go out there. At Far Hills, and they have about 40,000 people, and it is like a point-to-point, and everyone's got their massive trucks, and they're flying the flags, and it's an incredible day out. And Brain Power, you actually have draws, so you have you're not in stalls, but you have draws. And I was drawn right on the outside in the car park, and the track is very tight, and then you finish up a hill. And I remember speaking to the boss saying, "Oh God, we're drawn out in the car park," and he said, "Well, you're just going to have to find your way to the inside." So I think I just rode slightly brain dead and found my way literally behind my main rival, who was Paul Townend on Wicklow Brave. And coming up the hill, it was just the two of us, and I was just tracking him, and all credit to Willie Mullins and his team. His horse probably would have won. But unfortunately, he suffered a fatal injury at the last, and I've come and picked up the pieces. But on the back of that, I think everyone was a bit down, but it was an incredible achievement for Brain Power, and it was fantastic for Michael Buckley and Islay, because they had been planning this for a long time, and they were all over there, and the Americans were so hospitable, and they loved the fact that we bring horses out there to run on their tracks. And in my mind, it was a fantastic day, but obviously I did feel huge compassion for the Mullins team, and that was gutting. But you know, anyone who can go out to Far Hills, they have an amazing time. Shark Hannon took Hewick out there. They had a great time. Gordon Elliott loves it out there. There's always a big party, and it's a great time.
So your 50 Grade 1 wins have come just outside 10 years. I mean, it's an amazing feat, and also on a relatively small number of horses. I think it's 168 rides, which is incredible, really. And some have won as outsiders. You've got Maurice Rocker, who we haven't spoken about, who's done that a couple of times as well as Pentland Hills. But most have been favourite, second favourite. And you've had some great rides and some very decent horses. One horse I just wanted to finish with, because we really hope that he does get back to the racecourse, because I think he's one of the most exciting horses we've seen in a long time. Even I add Constitution Hill into that breath. Is Sergino. The great news is that he's back at Nicky's, apparently. It's a long, long road to go before he even gets on a racecourse. But you've won a couple of times on him in Grade 1s. He has done it as a hurdler, and you would think he would do it as a chaser as well, would you not, if he gets back? Yeah.
Fingers crossed. I mean, he's had the best medical care that you can get, and he's having the best care at Seven Barriers that you could wish for. He's, in my mind, he's a much better chaser than he is a hurdler. I think he, just from when we first schooled him over fences, we schooled him at the start of the season and then brought him back to hurdles when Constitution wasn't going to get to the fighting fifth. And he came up trumps for us that day. But I've always felt that he was a much more sort of natural chaser and very quick over them. And that feel he gave me at Kempton was fantastic. And I just hope, fingers crossed, he can get back and retain his form, because he's a magical horse to go forward with.
Well, Nico, it's great talking to you about your Grade 1 successes over the last 10 years. 50 Grade 1 wins. There's no other jockey in Britain that's won as many Grade 1s that's currently riding as you. Or starting all those years ago in 2015, 2014 Boxing Day, 2015 with Coneygree, and at the present time, Jango Baie being your 50th. hopefully there's plenty more to come, plenty more great horses for you to ride, and who knows, we might be here in another 5 or 6 years talking about 100 winners. But thank you very much.
No, thanks a lot. I don't know about that, but I'm enjoying the ride whilst it lasts.